Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week, while I'm still living in a fog of loneliness and sadness, I'm trying to convince myself that I'm going to change everything up in 2026. And I can't wait for it to get here. While I'll never forget Ange, and I wish she was healthy and here every single day, I have to move on. I can't just sit at home and feel sorry for myself, and I've been doing so much of that lately. So my plan moving forward is to take advantage of all the fun opportunities presented to me, the first being a trip to Jackson Hole in December with Outside Life. And that's going to be an insane party with a ton of college kids. And while I won't be hitting on college girls because I'm too old and that's gross and I'm still not in the hookup mindset, I'm going to have to start meeting people again in 2026 or else I'll go crazy. So while I'm not really looking forward to that, living the loser single life at 52, which I'm already living, I do think that's my way back to a normal life. But I can't imagine being with someone else. I mean, this wasn't the way it was supposed to happen. But what is supposed to happen is a podcast. And this week, it's Xander Guldman, and we recorded the week that he's coming to Seattle to premiere his live score movie Form. I wasn't sure what to expect from Xander. I thought he might be one of those quiet type guys that I had to pry information out of, but that wasn't the case at all. Xander was bubbling with personality, and it's a fun podcast. But before we get into it, it's time for me to ask you to do a few things for me. First, please tell a friend about the show. Second, share my social posts. And finally, please support my incredible sponsors who make this podcast happen. These brands have stuck by me through thick and thin, and they really do make this podcast happen. So please listen to their ads and buy their products. The brands I'm talking about are Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, Therm-ic Heated Socks, Descent Labs, and Stanley. Now, it's time to talk to the first guest that I've had whose name starts with an X. I'm talking about Xander Guldman. It's movie premiere season, and we were going to do this podcast in the afternoon, but then you got the invite for a last-minute premiere. What happened?
I filmed with a bunch of different people. Last winter, I was working with Matchstick and Head, and then I did my own project as well. And I've been putting a lot of energy and attention into my own project, and it's awesome to be able to go do these Matchstick premieres as well. And just got kind of confirmation yesterday that I'd have budget to go do a quick trip out to Park City for Matchstick premiere out there. So I'm just kind of doing a last-minute rally for that, which is awesome.
And trips like this happen in skiing all the time, where it's like you get the call last minute and they're like, we need you here in 2 days. You have to scramble to make it happen. Have you been in that situation before in the winter?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's just kind of the reality of the ski world in general. I think during the winter, it's more a result of, just conditions and, needing to be in the right place at the right time. And you don't know what the right time is until it's usually happening. And 10-day forecast is kind of the Bible in the ski world. So, usually it's weather dependent. And then, sometimes it's just schedules get busy and you need to see what aligns. But it's absolutely just the reality of skiing.
But it's rare that you get the call last minute like, hey, we've got budget. We need you to fly out here and party your face off tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely some of that's on me too. I've just been putting my energy in other places. But absolutely cool to get a call for anything at any point, especially go, movie premiere, go party it up.
And when you think about movie premieres, I mean, you've been doing them for 2-3 years now, so it's not like you've been doing them a shit ton. But when you think about your most fun movie premiere night, do you have one that stands out?
I think that's got to be the first year that I was doing it at IF3, the night that I won Breakout Skier of the Year. Every premiere is special for its own reason, but that one was there was just so much cause to celebrate. And, I wasn't even expecting that season to be filming, let alone with 2 different companies, let alone getting an award. So I think just having that kind of release and build up in the fall after all the filming has already happened is such a cool way to tap back into that. And Whistler is just the epicenter of ski premieres, and IF3 is just the center of all of that.
When you get to an award show like that, you win that award, all of your heroes are there, and you're kind of new to the ski film world. I mean, you didn't expect to be in all those places that you were. Is there any starstruckness when you see all of your heroes, or is it you just bro down with them right away?
Oh, no, definitely starstruck. I was still asking for, people to sign posters as I was sitting at the table next to them. I definitely was I don't even know if, how much this is going to last. In my mind, I was this may have just been a one-off thing that I got to go like film for a year, and I wanted to soak up every bit of it. And I feel super grateful that it's been able to turn into something bigger. But no, definitely like starstruck. I never really expected to actually get to sit at that table and be signing posters in the first place.
I mean, who is the skier or the skiers that make you most starstruck when you see him? Is it like an Ian McIntosh type guy, or like who's the one that's like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm sitting next to this guy?
I mean, it definitely Abma, right? Like growing up, I think he was one of the people that impacted how I view skiing more than anybody else. Like watching the way that he would just, find ways to do tricks in natural terrain. And I feel like his skiing's always been really expressive. And, I grew up on matchstick films. So watching Abma was everything for me. It's crazy though. I ended up being able to, I filmed with him more than any other person in my ski career at this point. Like the very first trip I did with matchstick ended up not making it into a movie at all, but we went up to Great Bear heli skiing up in Canada. That was my first like official like matchstick trip. I did some one-off shoots around Tahoe prior to that, but yeah, first trip was with Abma, second trip was with Abma, third trip was with Abma. I've been able to film with him a ton, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me.
I was at a OR thing with him last year where they were kind of launching his like signature line. And we were talking about filming and we were talking about when he was in Tahoe. I don't know if he was staying at your house, but it was really, really deep. And he made it sound like you guys would take laps and then show up at your house and your mom would have like meals and cookies for everybody. And then you'd go back out and ski again. Was that me just making shit up in my head, or does that really happen?
No, you're spot on. The first year that we filmed in 2023, we basically just had like base camp at my parents' place for 2 weeks. And yeah, my mom was like putting out charcuterie boards and stuff when we got back. Like it was like the full like lodge experience and stuff, but we were just like at my, childhood home. And then lightning kind of struck twice, and we did the same thing again the following year. And it was just like myself and Abma. The shoot as a whole involved Finn Billis and Jess Hodder as well. But they ended up leaving, unfortunately, like right before the best part of the storm. So yeah, Abma and I have had a couple, extended sessions of just like hanging out at my parents' place, skiing POW and getting pampered.
That's pretty amazing. And then when you think about sitting at those movie premieres and signing those posters, I look at those posters. I mean, I have them all over my wall, and it's like something that's a piece of art. And some people write cool shit, and some people write, send it, bro. What do you do?
Dude, it's I find that in those poster signings, like I most enjoy having like little conversations with people who come up, and I'm a horrible multitasker. So I feel like more often than not, I try to like talk to the people as they come up, especially when they're kids, and like hear about what they're doing, hear about what they're excited about in skiing. So I focus way more energy on the conversation than the actual poster signing. I have a few like canned phrases that I usually end up using for the poster. Every once in a while, I'll say a little something more, but usually I try to just like enjoy the moment with the person and think a little bit less about what I'm actually writing and just try to enjoy that like one-on-one moment as much as I can.
Yeah, well, they'll remember that forever. So that's pretty cool of you to do that. And when you think about going on the tour or going on the plane today, who are you most psyched to see tonight? Like, who are you going to go have beers with right away and be like, yeah, I haven't seen you in a while?
Dude, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to be hanging out with Samo and like Sam Cohen.
Yeah.
So he's going to pick me up from the airport. We're going to go hang out at the premiere. It'll be great to catch up with him. I filmed with him quite a bit last year. Did a trip with Head and a trip with Matchstick, and actually got skunked on a different trip for Head with him. So we spent a lot of last winter together. So it'll be fun to catch up with him. And then really looking forward to seeing Frankie as well, who kind of puts on all the Matchstick tours. He's just a beast when it comes to it. He basically spends his whole fall every year just like pushing that train forward. And he's a great guy. He actually like announced junior competitions when I was growing up as like comp skier and stuff. So it's been fun to kind of get to know him as an adult as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. And so you're talking about, filming with MSP, and Frankie's a big part of that. And then this year you shot with Jeff Thomas again for Head. Both outfits have been huge for your career, but then you did your own project with your little brother this year, Jordan, and it's called Form. And when you have 3 projects that you're filming for, do you get any days to ski for yourself last year?
Yeah, last winter was crazy. I spread myself super thin, and it was definitely deliberate to do that. Like I was like, there's so much that I want to do, and I'm just going to try to do all of it. I think moving forward, I might try to scale back a little bit because to your point, like filming with 2 production companies, doing my own thing. I also like help organize an event, Sugar Bowl in the spring, and I just had a lot of stuff going on. So I didn't really have as many days to just ski for myself as I would have liked. But the nice thing, especially with the project that I did with my sibling Jordan and my childhood friend Coulter who filmed it, was like, that was 2 weeks where we weren't traveling. We were skiing the same zone every day. Like a big part of the concept was like, how many different ways can we interpret the same space? So even though we were out there filming, we were out there working the whole time, like it was just a really different vibe than your ordinary film shoot. You know, we had a longer period of time. We weren't thinking about what our logistical challenges were going to be. And I was like hanging out with people that I grew up hanging out with. So it had a very different vibe, even though it was still, you know, like working on a film project.
Well, it's like everything that you're doing all season last year is trying to stack clips. I mean, you've got to do it with head, you've got to do it with matchstick, and you've got to create your stuff in 2 weeks for form. So, I mean, does it ever get to feel like a job, or do you ever get burnout when it's just like, I have to produce today?
Like it's less a burnout issue. Like skiing's so fun. And yeah, there are definitely times where, you know, it doesn't feel the same as just skiing for fun, I guess. Like, but it is always fun. It is always skiing. I think the main thing that I struggled with this year was like, it was hard to find space for progression when I was working on so many different projects, because like something that I didn't realize from the outside until I was actually like in the film world is that as you're building a segment, as you're building a project, you need to figure out like what things you can do reliably, like what you can do first try, because there's kind of an efficiency model within filming, right? Where like you need to be able to go out for one day when the conditions are good. And, you know, if you can stack like 4 clips in a day, then you set yourself up really well for the rest of the shoot. So I just found that I was, you know, over the past couple of years of filming, I've found that like there are certain tricks and certain things that like shoot well and that I want to get in the bag. So I know that I have that available. And once you have that foundation built, then you can get more experimental and do more interesting things with your skiing. But when you're working on so many different projects and have a relatively short window for all of them, and you know they're all going to different places, I found that I was doing a lot of the same things, you know, and just really like stacking those safety clips. And I didn't have as much time to like push myself and get weird as I had hoped. You know, like I think a lot of my favorite clips over the years are after I've already established all of those initial things and I get to just like try something that I wouldn't ordinarily because it might have, you know, a lower likelihood of me landing it.
So all of your weird grabs and different grabs are stuff that happens after the fact where you've already stacked good clips and you're like, I can crash here and it's okay. I've already got stuff in the bag.
That's definitely a good pragmatic approach. You know, every once in a while, like inspiration strikes and you just do something because you need to do it because you're excited about it. But, you know, in order to make like filming really work, I have been trying to approach it a little bit more practically in terms of just like, okay, like I have a couple days, like I did a Toyota thing last winter also. And it was like, all right, we have like a very short window of time here. So I just need to like do things that I know will work. And, you know, you have a certain set of things that are, you know, fit into that box. But I mean, the parts of skiing that I love most are when I'm trying things that I don't know exactly what the outcome will be, or it's just kind of like a random moment of inspiration and you kind of riff off of that.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll go to your movie form. It's a short piece. It's like 7 minutes. It's really artsy. And the coolest part about the movie is what I haven't seen yet. When did you come up with the idea for a live scored movie?
So live score has been on my mind for a couple of years now, but, you know, it really came to life last fall. I was just realizing it, you know, like I've been able to do a lot of these projects with amazing production companies, but, you know, when you're part of like a larger movie, there isn't quite as much space to just showcase like what you want to do more specifically. So, and, you know, there are so many motivations for this project, I guess, but a big part of it was my sibling Jordan is like a jazz trumpet player, and watching their career through music was really impactful for me and really helped me like better understand what I wanted to do with my skiing. And watching them play music live, like has just, I don't know, every time I would sit there, it made me start thinking about skiing, you know? And like, I think there are so many parallels between the art forms. And I think that like the live component really helps bring that to the surface in a way that a recorded track just never will. Like there are so many nuances and just like the interplay between different musicians that you get from live shows. Like, I don't know, adds like a realness and a character to it that a recorded track just can't. So doing live score was definitely like the biggest motivation for doing this project, and just trying to get people in the ski industry to listen to jazz music, try something new. Yeah, I mostly just wanted to challenge myself as well and see if I would be able to, yeah, change my skiing, change my product, and do something like just different.
Well, you know what's crazy is you've got this thing going on, but Armada did the same thing this year. Not the same thing, but they have a movie that they're going to live score, and they've live scored at different venues. They're going to do it on a grander scale. Did you know about their movie?
No, it's so funny. And I've like so many different feelings about it. The main one, honestly, is just that I think it's so cool, right? Like to see a big company like Armada or the resources that they did into making like a 2-year team movie and incorporating live score. It's just awesome and something that the ski industry is benefiting so much from. Like the response to that project has just been incredible. So like mostly I'm just really excited to see that happening. It is also really funny to have like grown up having never seen like live score along a ski film and then like have this idea that like feels original and distinct and then to have like another company go ahead and do that the same season. But there must have been something in the air because Mallory Duncan, my friend who I'm doing the Noise Ordinance tour with, or will be premiering for him, also is incorporating an element of live score into his film. And there's something in the air this year about live score. I don't know what it is. So selfishly, I'm like, I felt like I had like a cool idea that wasn't being done and somebody else is doing it. But that's honestly super validating, and it's just great to see it happening. Is my main feeling.
Well, I watched the film and I watched it to the Miles Davis song that you told me to watch it to, Bitches Brew, and it really worked well. And I wasn't expecting experimental jazz to work that great with skiing, but it really did. Will the music in person that Jordan and his band put together, will it be along those same lines, or is it going to be totally different than Miles Davis?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would need to let Jordan answer that question really, but I think it's definitely different. It's been a really cool process. So like a few weeks back, I flew out to New York. So both Jordan and my friend Coulter, who shot and edited the project, live in New York. So we just kind of needed to all get together to like get this project to the finish line and like get on the same page about these things. And I was able to sit in on a couple of rehearsals and we just kind of riffed and like tried it a bunch of different ways. Like the very first take, we were like, okay, like no structure at all, just like totally free, just like play what you see. And it was really cool. I also don't think it's the kind of thing that like an audience would be able to digest very well. And it was like messy, but we just kind of wanted to like see what would happen if we tried that. And then from there, we're like, okay, like I think we need a little bit of structure. So we like went through and tried to figure out like what musically would align with what was happening in the moment. The coolest part about this project for me was like just the back and forth between the three of us, especially where like, I think each of us had our own ideas about what this final product would look like. And it was all about like just figuring out how to speak the same language, right? Like I'm not a jazz musician and neither is Coulter. And like I've spent some time editing, but not to the same extent that Coulter has. And like just trying to figure out what that common language might be. And the music really reflects that, I think. Like Jordan just sent me like a voice memo with like the most recent version of the rehearsal. And it's super cool. It's really evolved to the point where like it does hit certain marks at certain places. So it feels cohesive and connected to the video, but there's so much space for improvisation and experimentation and like expression that I think will make each show totally unique from one to the next. So, and I'd say like stylistically, I don't think it's going to be quite as dark as Bitches Brew. I think that's like a very intense emotional track. And I think that aligns fairly well with the visuals that we've created. But I think juxtaposing that with like a more like light and dynamic sound will be really interesting. So again, no, it'll change a little bit from one show to the next.
Yeah, that's the coolest part of it is no show will ever be the same. Everything will be different each time because no one's going to play the same music exactly the same each night. So it's going to create nuances within each show. Some will be better than others, I'm sure, and you guys are going to be psyched regardless. It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm stoked to have Therm-ic back on the podcast as a sponsor. Because when temperatures get nuclear cold, I don't hit the mountain without my Therm-ic Heated Socks. They are the original heated sock, and still the industry leader after 20 years. It's a total game changer. We all know that if your feet are frozen, you're not skiing or snowboarding at your best. And if you are, you're suffering through it. I make sure that never happens by always wearing my Therm-ic socks. Therm-ic's game-changing smart elastic technology heated socks are our world's first. These SET socks are a high-performance fitting, thin ski sock, where the patented heating components have stretch instead of a bulky band and element. So you literally feel like you're wearing your normal favorite pair of performance ski socks. But if heat isn't for you, don't worry. Therm-ic has you covered with socks for winter with their athlete-tested and proven Descent line of socks. This is the #1 recommended sock by boot fitters in North America because for over a decade, Descent has engineered performance socks to eliminate things like chafing or heel blisters in your boots when you're touring or splitboarding. Descent socks have a distinct locked-on fit that never seems to change, no matter what you get up to. At the end of the day, Therm-ic and Descent socks are the go-to socks for the people that know. Drop into your local boot fitter and retailer and you'll see what I mean. Next up, it's Outdoor Research. And if you haven't checked out outdoorresearch.com in the past week or so, then you haven't seen the brand new winter line, which looks incredible. I could spend a lot of this ad telling you all the tech and why Outdoor Research is better. But know that in the 1980s and the early 90s, Outdoor Research built a reputation on functional quality outdoor gear that pushed the limits of innovative possibilities. And those who were function first were all about OR gear because it was and it still is built better, and Outdoor Research is still pushing those limits of innovation. This year, the outerwear focuses on 3 new collections: the Cloud Chaser for backcountry, and the Powderverse and Hemisphere collections for freeride, as well as some staples in the line like the Snow Crew collection. These outerwear systems are styled for and by athletes like Mark Abma, Troy Podnelsak, Zoe Aitken, snowboarder Neil Provo, and others, and that's why this outerwear collection not only looks so good, but each piece is more functional than ever, and they're all you're going to need in any conditions. To find out more about the new collection, head on over to outdoorresearch.com. My final sponsor this round is Stanley. And sure, you used to know Stanley for keeping your grandpa's coffee hot in that signature green water bottle. Well, they still make that iconic bottle, but Stanley is the talk of the world these days. And while they may have started with the Powell movement, oh how they have grown. Nowadays, icons like Messi and Caitlin Clark and Post Malone and Olivia Rodrigo are all swearing by their Stanleys. And I've been telling you about how incredible their products are at keeping your drinks hotter and colder than anyone else for over 8 years now. I mean, Stanley invented the category in 1913, and they're constantly innovating to make sure that you have the best. And I know I love having the best. Lately, I've personally been drinking more water than ever thanks to my Stanley Quencher. And when I go to the mountain, I've integrated Stanley food storage devices into my ski routine instead of buying that $20 burger. But I have to say, my all-time favorite Stanley products are their pint glasses, which I've used every day for 8.5 years or so. Like millions of people out there, I love all my Stanley stuff, and I want you to get on the Stanley program too. They give me their best discount code available, so you get 30% off of all your products, and to do that, you head on over to stanley1913.com and you go shopping, buy a ton of stuff because you're going to get 30% off of it when you check out and use the code Powell2025. So that's all capitals, Powell, no spaces, and then the numbers 2025 2025. That's going to get you 30% off your Stanley products. Those are my sponsors. Now it's time to jump back into the podcast.
I'm going to guess that you get some of that artsy vision from your parents. And when I was kind of looking into your life and times, you're born in the Bay, you grew up in Truckee, and I was thinking that when I read that you wanted to be a doctor, that maybe your parents were doctors and you wanted to follow in their footsteps. But in reality, you were born into a family of river rafting guides. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're good, man. You did your research. But yeah, but my parents actually got together through guiding. So my dad worked for Art of River Trips, which is the same company that I worked for now for the past 7 years. And my mom was running a program at Cal Adventures, which was the outdoor program at UC Berkeley. And they grew up together. Actually, they've known each other since 4th grade, but then they actually came back together and, started dating through rafting. So growing up, that was a huge part of my life. And yeah, my parents do different things now. They aren't guiding still. My dad works in computer software development, and my mom's done a bunch of cool stuff. She was a photographer for a long time. So actually my very first photos of me skiing that got published and stuff were taken by my mom.
Oh, that's cool.
She works as a college counselor now. She's super talented, does a lot of different things. And she helped actually organize for a long time the local big mountain competition series around Tahoe, and created a lot of structure there, established it as a 501(c) nonprofit, and just brought some order to the chaos that has allowed Tahoe Freeride to grow.
Nice. Well, we'll talk about rafting for a minute, and it sounds like that's something that you do in the summers. And in terms of being a raft guide, where you're actually a full-time job in the summer, I would think, and it's it's a paid gig compared to being a skier, which is a different full-time job. Where do you make more money in a year? Do you make more money rafting or skiing?
It's been pretty balanced the past couple of years. This year, I decided to take a step back. I was managing a branch of the company for a couple of years prior, so I was making a little bit more from rafting than I was from skiing. And then this year, I stepped back and just took a year to guide. So I made a little bit less guiding than I did skiing, but yeah, it's nice. I feel like both sides support both, like being able to work seasonally. Yeah, there's a complementarity to it.
And I would think skiing is more scary fun and rafting more good, clean fun with a little danger. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, totally. I'd say like the rafting side, the biggest thing that I like about it is a little bit more about like introducing these places to other people who wouldn't otherwise have access. Like skiing, as much as we talk about it being a team sport, and it really is, right? Like when you're in the mountains, you're relying on the people around you. So it is a team sport, but the way that my career is structured, at least, is still like a little bit more centered around like pushing myself as a skier and like, just building like my ski resume and stuff, like there is a level of it that feels weirdly selfish. And I think rafting has been way more about like, how can I take this place that has shaped who I am, that I love so much, and then find a way to share it to other people. And rafting's like uniquely accessible in the sense that like, you don't need to have rafted ever in your life to be able to like hop in a boat and be a paddler. And then, you get to camp, we like make meals, and it's just like a cool way to introduce people to this like outdoor lifestyle, get away from your phones for a little bit. Yeah, just give access to these places that are really hard to get to.
Okay, so that's rafting, and your parents, they met as raft guides, or they didn't meet as raft guides, they met at 4th grade. But like you said, your dad also developed software, and that's, I guess, why your family was able to ski and travel and do cool shit. And did you do a decent amount of world travel when you were a kid?
Yeah, for sure. Travel is like, basically, I was born in the Bay, and my parents were both from there as well. And they lived in the Tahoe in their 20s for a while. And like, this place is awesome, but like, how's it going to work to raise a family up here? And, there were just like limited opportunities for work as, kind of like the biggest crux. And, there are also just like kind of cultural things. Like, it's a really homogenous thing to live in a mountain town. And my parents wanted to figure out how to like raise a family in a way where we could, have access to the outdoors and also like understand the world as a whole a little bit more. So my dad was able to like work remotely for, over 20 years now at this point. He was like way ahead of the curve on that, kind of like paved the way for better or worse. But so we were able to like live here with my dad working remotely and my mom doing, like I was saying, like all sorts of different things. And then we were able to travel quite a bit too. So one of the companies that my dad worked for had an operation in Argentina. So our whole family moved to Argentina for like 6 months when I was like 11 years old. And I've gone back to South America at the very least, like every 2 years since then. So that's continued to be like a really big part of my life.
I asked that because I was reading about some nerd stuff about you. And before I even get to the nerd stuff, and it has to do with South American stuff. Before I go to nerd stuff, I hear you, like a lot of people on this podcast, are really good at almost anything athletic that you do. What are some of the things that you're really good at that people don't know?
Ooh, I like that question. I don't know if I would say I'm like that good at it because I haven't done it a ton recently, but I got really into pottery a couple of years ago, and I would say I'm like a proficient potter, but it's been in the backseat for a little bit.
And then are you one of those people who, like, if you never play ping pong or something, can pick up a ping pong paddle and beat most people just because you're good at stuff?
Dude, not so much, honestly. I mean, like I don't know, different people might disagree with that actually, but ping pong, for example, like the hand-eye coordination stuff, I'm quite bad at. I remember like at a Halloween party last week when we were playing Flip Cup, and I was like the worst at it. So I don't, some things yes, other things definitely no. The hand-eye coordination is not my strong suit.
Okay. So as talking about nerd shit and international travel, and it's because you won the honorable mention for the state of California in letters about literature, the national writing contest put on by the Library of Congress Center for Books. And you weaved a trip to Brazil with your grandfather's World War II stories into this letter that you wrote. But all I could think about when I was reading your letter was, I knew it. Steen, Stein, Stone, Bergen, man, it never fails me. Xander could be Jewish, and if he is, boom, that puts him in the conversation of best Jewish skier ever. Are you Jewish?
I would say I'm like Jewish by heritage for sure, right? My grandpa was Jewish German and fled during Nazi occupation, and his relationship to religion has been pretty complicated since then. So growing up, we like did some, we weren't like the most practicing Jewish family, right? Like I would say it's part of my cultural heritage, but less of like who I am at present moment, I guess.
Well, if some American dude can go ski for another country like Jordan in the Olympics, you might as well be considered Jewish, and that would make you arguably the best Jewish skier in the world, right? Can you think of other Jews that are better at skiing than you?
I'm sure there are some. I think who else? I was just listening to some of your other podcasts. I think who else was on it that was Jewish?
Jess Hunter was Jewish.
Jess was.
And I always bring it up because I'm Jewish and I don't practice at all, but I like to think about Jews doing well in sports, and there's not many Jews that do well in sports. So you being the greatest skier ever, it's awesome for you.
I would put Jess above me.
Okay. Well, male and female category.
Fair.
And then growing up for you, there was baseball, soccer, and there was skiing. Were you good at all three?
Yeah, and I liked them all for different reasons. Like, I think it's funny, I haven't watched baseball at all for, basically since I played it, and just watched the World Series the other night. And it's like, damn, it's a cool sport. Like, I played a bunch of different positions. I really like playing outfield and like running and diving. And I liked the focus of baseball, and the fact that like you have to stay tuned in even when nothing's happening. And I really liked in soccer just the like athleticism of it. I was never had like the best ball control, but I loved like just running and getting physical and just being aggressive. And I think skiing like captured a lot of the things that I liked about other sports in one place. But honestly, with like a less intense environment and like better coaching, I guess. Like I ended up, leaving baseball just because like parents were getting way too intense, and it was like just stopped being fun when I was like really young, honestly. And soccer was great, but there was this expectation that I had to like quit all other sports if I wanted to play soccer.
Right.
I was like, okay, this is great and all, but like skiing is the most fun. This is what I want to be doing.
I mean, was skiing the one that you daydream most about being pro?
Yeah, for sure. But I think like a big part of that is like growing up in Tahoe, like there are so many pro skiers like currently and like as I was a kid, and going back as long as professional skiing is a thing. Like this is such an epicenter of that. So like I feel like our concept of like celebrity and role model and professional athlete has always been in like the ski and snowboard industry. So that was just like what I had access to. So that's definitely what I like imprinted on as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, Sugar Bowl was your home mountain, and that place, it's not the Hollywood resort that Palisades, but it pumps out some pretty amazing skiers. Who were the big names from Sugar Bowl when you were coming up?
Daron Rhalves was always just like the guy when it came to Sugar Bowl. I feel super fortunate too that he definitely like opened a lot of doors for me in the industry, helped me get some of my earliest sponsors, and like has mentored me throughout my career. Like yeah, Daron, like more than anybody else, was that guy. There are a lot of other people that like you may or may not have heard of. Like, Brian Bozak was still is an incredible snowboarder. He did a bunch of years on the Freeride World Tour, but like dark horse, super underspoken, and just one of the best snowboarders you'll ever see.
And with Ralphs, I mean, did you get to go ski with him and actually hang out with him and stuff? Or was it more just like you were the little kid that he was like, hey kid, if you do this, this, and that, you could be something?
No, it was sweet. Daron was great about that. So I went to Sugar Bowl Academy in high school, which was like, a super small ski school that allowed us to be on snow 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And Daron would like come to workouts with us. And, I think that's like really where we connected. Actually, it was like in the fall in the gym. And he was like, wait, like, free riders don't usually like, work out, especially this was like 10, more than 10 years ago now. And, I think now it's like way more commonplace to see people like conditioning for
like
skiing. But yeah, totally. Like that's just like a thing now. But Daron and I kind of connected over that. And, we would ski a little bit time and time when I was in high school, but it was really like after I graduated, once I was in college and just kind of weekend warrioring coming up. He taught me so much about backcountry skiing, especially. Like I think a lot of my most pivotal days of skiing were like without cameras and just like being in the backcountry with Daron, him showing me like how to read terrain and how to navigate avalanche conditions. Like it really takes a mentor to show you the road in that sense. And Daron was absolutely that for me.
When he's kind of showing you the ropes and showing you the road and all that stuff, is it almost funny to him that like he's showing you all this stuff, but then you're tricking down each feature as well, where he's just Mach 10ing down everything? Is he almost laughing at like, wow, I didn't think he was going to spin off that, and that?
Dude, yeah, I think we really connected over that because like I think we read terrain so differently, but coming from the same resort, we're looking at a lot of the same features and whatnot. So we did a couple like follow laps with each other and like actually like on the same line, and we're just skiing it completely differently. And I think we both get a kick out of that, right? Like for me, it's really crazy to think about skiing things as aggressively and fast as he does. And, I think for him, it was just like interesting to, see a different interpretation of the terrain that's more about like tricks and like bouncing around and losing speed at every turn.
Yeah, it's funny, the juxtaposition. And How about with skiing? I mean, with big mountain contests, you started at like 11 years old. And when you're standing on top of peaks at 11 with guys who are probably through puberty, what are the nerves like at that point?
Yeah, I mean, nerves were a huge part of my journey in skiing. And honestly, I think one of the reasons that I loved it so much, but I had such a hard time managing my nerves as a kid. Like, there was the most memorable moment that I referenced was like my first time traveling to Grand Targhee for one of the junior national comps. And I was above a line that I was like totally capable of skiing. And I just was so scared and nervous. And I was like crying and my goggles were fogging up. I was 11 years old and it was like one of the steepest things I'd skied, but like I knew I could do it, but I just like couldn't handle the moment. And I remember like just trying to compose myself before I dropped in, trying to like squint through my fog goggles. And I ended up like falling on my very first cliff, tomahawking over another cliff, losing all my gear. It was just like, just devastated. I was like, I just want to like prove that I can do it. And, like put my skis back on and then just ragdolled off the next cliff also. And basically was just like shunned when I got into the finish corral because it's bad form, you know, if you fall on your run, you're supposed to just like get off the venue.
Yeah, totally.
It was just like so devastating. And from that moment on, I was like, I need to figure out how to manage my mental game. Like skiing's awesome and comp skiing is really cool and this is the path, but I can't do this again. Like I need to figure out how to make some changes.
Were you able to reel everything in for the next comp and maybe not drop cliffs that you weren't going to be able to land?
Yeah, less so the second part of that. I got put in the proverbial penalty box a couple times. It was basically where like you scare the shit out of the announcer and then they put you in timeout. But the mental game, the nerve side of it, I was able to kind of work through. Definitely like had a lot of mentorship from different coaches. One coach, Barrett Steinmetz, worked with me like, you know, just directly, we just like a couple one-on-one sessions. And he talked to me about like box breathing and like use different like breathing exercises and how to like use visualization to your advantage. And, you know, my other coach in high school, Trevor Tanoff, worked with me on that as well. And it was just like, it was my first time being introduced to this idea that like, there are tools that exist to help you manage the moment. And honestly, a lot of those are like, you know, still routines and practices that I use today. So that was like a really awesome thing to be introduced to at such a young age.
So you're introduced to the contest scene, but then are you also into ski culture? Like I think this is around probably Claim, 7 Sunny Days, refresh era of skiing. And were you aware of the ski movies and the culture that was going on at that point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like growing up, 7 Sunny Days and Claim, like I just grew up on that. Those are my favorite ski movies of all time. And, you know, Poor Boys and Level 1, like it was such an exciting moment as a skier. Like there was so much amazing stuff being released. And at that time too, like prior to social media, like, you know, there's this really cool, like cultural seasonal shift where you like wait all summer, you get psyched. And like, just as your excitement is peaking, all these movies get released and then you get to go to these massive premieres and like meet your heroes. And like, I don't know, that I think that separation and like lack of instant gratification of being able to like wake up in the morning and see like 15 mind-boggling clips before 9 a.m. You know, back then when you had to wait a little bit more, made it so much more powerful. And I was totally invested in it. We were like, you know, 10 years old wearing tall tees and like we had like a little mini trampoline inside our house. We were like trying new axes and like flips and whatnot. And you know, we called it a foam pit. We basically made like a pile of pillows in the living room and just chucked the carcass onto that. But yeah, we were super into it.
Nice. And then were there any skiers in particular that you would emulate?
Man, there just so many. I think like Abma was, you know, the biggest inspiration in a lot of ways. Obviously growing up here, like Shane McConkey was a huge inspiration. And, you know, same with like Ingrid Backstrom. I think Jordan and I were like really hyped on like Phil Casavant and all the other guys in the Level 1 movies. And I remember like some of those earlier like Amit Dadali clips were just crazy. Like watching some dude skiing like open jacket and the poles pow to like gangster rap was just like rewired my circuitry. I feel like, you know, like being that young and like seeing skiing in such a different light was so crazy.
And, you know, watching those guys, is that where some of your grabs come from that are kind of untraditional for the backcountry skier with some of like the genie grabs and shit that you do that no one else takes to the backcountry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like a big part of that, like Vincent Gagne was like the biggest inspiration for, you know, genie grabs. I know people were doing that before him, but watching him, you know, work that into like dub bios and stuff, the X Games was just like, whoa, like skiing is so much more than I thought it could be. And like, I think him more than anybody is like Venom grabs. He was doing like really cool like pole grabs and stuff too. But anybody who's able to like do something that you haven't seen before is just such like, that was so impactful to me. And I think like as I was, given a platform in skiing, I was like, okay, like I want to figure out how I can contribute to this and do something that people maybe haven't seen before, right? And I think for me, I'm like, well, my bag of tricks is like there, but it's somewhat limited. And like, what can I do that other people aren't doing? So I was like, okay, like tricks off of natural features, genie grabs, just different things, different ways to express myself that kind of break the box of like, the comp skiing that I grew up with, which is like ski down, do a 3 off of a cliff, go do a backflip, and that's your run.
Yeah.
I just wanted to figure out how I could like step outside of that, especially on my first year, or only year, I guess, on the world tour.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start out with Elan Skis. While some of us wish every day was a powder day, that's not reality. And that's where the Wingman and the Wildcat come into play for men and women. Think hard-charging front-side skis that are designed to make you remember how fun carving is. And they're still versatile enough where you won't want to go switch skis if it snows or it gets choppy out there. Like almost every Elan, these are both award-winning skis from reputable sources like Ski Magazine and others. And Wingman and Wildcat aren't only super fun to ski, but they're going to make you a better skier. And while you can find out about Wingman and Wildcat and the Playmaker series and Ripstick over at elanskis.com, the place where the knowledge about Elan skis and really everything in the industry is in your local ski shop. So go to one this fall, smell the wax and the P-Tex, flex the skis, and most importantly, talk to your local shop guy. The guy who's a real skier in there, and he can help you pick out what's best for you. So Elan wants you to support your local ski shop, and you can ask them what the right pair of Elans are for you. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing, and now is the time to think snow. And skiers, snowboarders, weekend warriors, tubers, sledders, snowbikers, snowmobilers, snowshoers, sled doggers, shovel racers, snow angel makers, ice skaters, snowball fighters, igloo builders, you get it. The doers of winter are starting to get ready to shred, and post-shred, it's all about après. And this year, do après the right way. Forget about the calories, forget about the alcohol, forget about not taking more runs on the mountain, forget about getting in trouble on the way home, because with a beer from Best Day Brewing, you don't have to worry about any negative consequences. Just incredible flavor. Blind taste tests prove that you won't be able to taste the difference between a Best Day and your favorite beer with alcohol. The only difference you'll notice is how good you'll feel in the morning, and you're going to remember what you did last night, which is almost refreshing as a Best Day itself. To celebrate your best day yet, next time you're at the store, pick up a 6-pack of Best Day. Or you can always buy it on your Alaska Airlines flight, Amazon.com, or head on over to bestdaybrewing.com to get the full assortment of Best Days. Those are my sponsors. Now, let's jump back into the podcast.
Your whole style of skiing, it's very bouncy. There's a ton of energy to it, and it's fun to watch. And you pack so many tricks into lines. It's like you're always trying to throw another 180 or a butter into your line, which is pretty cool. And when I see that, I wonder if you're influenced by like Pep and Pollard and the Nimbus guys too.
Yeah, it's funny. Like those guys have been my biggest inspirations more recently. For whatever reason, I think it was just because I was like young and like, didn't really know, honestly. But like watching movies like Idea and stuff have been my biggest points of inspiration in recent years. And like, yeah, Eric Pollard especially, like his just touch and approach. And I think like the way that his skiing and his life are interwoven is just so fascinating and impressive to me. And yeah, when I was younger, for whatever reason, I didn't actually find a lot of that, because I was really just watching like Poor Boys Level 1, Matchstick. I didn't know how to tap into the internet and figure out what else was out there. But now as an adult, like I've been revisiting all of that. And honestly, I think like my favorite ski movie of the past like 5 years is probably, I guess maybe it was more than 5 years ago now, but was Drawn From Here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that was just like masterful on so many fronts.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's been resonating with me more and more recently.
Just the artsy side of it and bringing personality of who you really are into your project.
Yeah, totally. And I think there are a lot of people who are doing that really effectively. I think like Dylan Siggers is another guy who's doing that. And Mallory Duncan, who I'm about to go on tour with, I think is in my mind like the best storyteller at the moment within skiing, and just figuring out like finding ways to portray skiing in a way that it hasn't been seen before, and in a way that like is genuine to who people are. I think that's what's most fascinating to me in skiing right now.
Well, I'm excited to see that when you guys come through town because it's coming pretty soon. But we're going to go back to the Freeride team at Sugar Bowl. I mentioned the bouncy flow that you have, but you also have this incredible turn. And it sounds like Trevor Tanoff, one of your coaches, and the drills that he would drill into you early season and all season were really what kind of built your foundation as a solid skier. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like he was so far ahead of the curve as a coach. Like I think a lot of other freeride teams are just like, hell yeah, like we're a freeride team. We're going to go ski around and jump off of things. And like Trevor would make us do like at the very least like one lap of drills every morning before we got to go free ski. And it was like just building that like muscle memory and repetition and discipline. He would make us go get into the race course and ski gates from time to time as well. And he just cared a lot about the technical foundation that we would have as skiers. And I do feel like that, like not only the skills that we gain from that, but just like the idea that if you want something, you should work for it, and that you need to work on the things that you might not ordinarily think of, right? Like when I think about like the great skiers that I want to be like, it's almost always, especially as a younger kid, you're almost always focusing on like the moments in the air, which is like epic. That's awesome. But most of skiing happens on the ground. And Trevor was really great about drilling that into us at a young age.
And then with Sugar Bowl, it's not a mountain that had a park. I don't think it has a park now, but when you were coming up, it didn't have a park. At the same time, 2012-ish, I think that's when Woodward Tahoe opened. Were you one of those kids that just started gravitating towards Woodward Tahoe to just figure out your air awareness and stuff?
Having Woodward was such a huge part of like my progression. And yeah, like growing up, we all had like trampolines in our backyards and we like go just jump off cliffs into lakes and stuff. But once we had like an actual facility that helped us train, like that was just absurdly helpful. Like roller skis, the super trampoline, like all the foam pits, like there was just so much at our disposal to push ourselves and to push ourselves safely. And it's funny though, in a lot of ways, like we're like the first generation of skiers to have like ready access to all of those tools.
For sure.
So like we weren't always like quite sure how to use it. And it's such a trip. Like I'll go like guest coach for Sugar Bowl from time to time at Woodward now. And it's like the level is so much higher. And it's also like people know the best way to use all of the facilities that are available. But for us, it was like, yeah, absolutely a game changer to have access to that. We just like, it was still a little cowboy. We're still kind of trying to figure out how it all worked.
It was nice to have Woodward. And then competition-wise, when you think about what you're doing in the big mountain contests in high school, I mean, what did the podiums look like? Were you on them a bunch? And was it like you and Ross Tester? Or who were the guys to watch in Tahoe when you were coming up?
It was cool. I feel like we had a really stacked crew. But yeah, like it was Ross and I kind of trading spots on the podium a lot of the time. My best friend Lou Norris was always in the mix. Cody Atwood, Chase Whitney, like we had a really stacked crew. Like ultimately, like Ross and I were kind of the main people to make a career out of it after the fact, but it was competitive. And then on a bigger scale, there was, it was sweet. Like we were kind of the first crop of people that was able to like travel nationally and internationally for freeride competitions. So, Sam Cooch and I were kind of going back and forth like 2015, 2016. We traded off like first and second place in the overall. And then it was cool to be able to like check in with what was happening in these other regions. There was always a lot of talent in Utah and Colorado as well. And yeah.
And at that point in your career, when you're on the podium all the time in high school, or not all the time, but a lot, does sponsorship happen for you then, or did that happen later in life?
Sponsorship happened pretty young for me, honestly. And, the term sponsorship, I guess, can be controversial. I didn't get paid until after college, actually. Like I was on like flow deals and stuff. I was getting gear. Actually, my first sponsor was Smith Optics when I was 11 years old. So I've been getting gear from them for over a decade now. But yeah, no like paid contracts or anything until after I graduated college.
So you've got sponsors, but when it's time to go to college, I think you had some injuries too at the end of high school. So it's like you're going to go to UC Davis, you're going to do school, and you're going to do contests and everything during the weekends. Is that how year one works for you?
Yeah, like as I was figuring out where I wanted to go to school, I was really looking for this balance that was hard to achieve of like, I want to go to a good school and I also want to be able to ski. And, freeride isn't like an NCAA sport. Like it isn't officially recognized. So I was like, okay, like my best bet is to find a school with a quarter system. So, rather than having just 2 semesters, you have quarters, fall, winter, and spring. So Davis, I was able to like take a light course load in the winter my first year. And then my second year, I took, winter quarter entirely off to go travel. And then after that, I took full course loads and just kind of skied on the weekend to finish my degree.
Well, your second year, though, was like an injury-filled year, right? It was like you got hurt a bunch, you had to go through like rehab and doctors, and that kind of inspires you to make a full-on pivot in college. And you're like, I'm not doing this business shit anymore. I'm going to go pre-med because that's interesting to me now.
Yeah, totally. You are good at your research, Mike.
And that's my job, It's like I've got to do a little.
I appreciate it. But no, totally. My first year in college, I like dislocated my shoulder towards the end of the season. And that was, one of my first like, semi-major injuries, I guess. And then my second year in college, I was like very intentionally like trying to avoid injury. Like I was like trying to like scale back my decision making and like trying to like be smarter about it, trying to take care of myself and take care of my body. And something was wrong because I was like just battling minor injuries pretty much all winter, spending a lot of time in physical therapy. And, I wasn't working or anything at the time. I was just living at my parents' place or like on the road and just kind of in and out of physical therapy. And it was like really frustrating. And I kind of just felt like I was lacking direction. And like mentally, I was like, like I'm good enough to make this skiing thing work, but it's just not happening. And it was frustrating. And the reality of the ski industry is there are just so many things that need to go right for you to be able to like make a career out of it. And at that point in time, I was just like, there are a lot of these things that are actually like outside of my control. All that I can do is like take care of myself and my body and set myself up for success. But I want to make sure that I'm living like a well-rounded, purposeful life and feel like the things outside of skiing are also adding value to me. And, I was at a point where I was in my second year of college and just wasn't feeling that connected to Davis as a place. And I was like in all of my free time leaving. And I was like, there's this whole world that I have access to that I'm not taking advantage of.
There's a lifestyle in college that you should experience. People go to school to experience the college lifestyle as well as broaden their horizons.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. So I just felt like, the skiing thing, I was honestly just really frustrated by skiing at that point in time. And it like just wasn't clicking for me. And I was like, I know that I'm good at skiing, but like shit's just not working. So yeah, from there on out, I was like, I think I need to like figure out a way to like get more value out of college, like find something that I'm actually excited about and care about rather than just like going through the motions 5 days a week so I can go leave town and go skiing. Like I wanted to like make a more well-rounded experience for myself in Davis.
And so you go full on into school, but you're still doing the ski thing. But I would think at this point, it's like skiing secondary. I've got to get these pre-med credits done and I've got to do well in them. So I'm not focused on being the best skier in the world. And that probably helps you out when it comes to contests because you're not stressed out about like, oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. You're just like, well, if I get last, I get last. I still got this test on Monday. So it's not as much pressure on your shoulders. And it seems like when people take the pressure off their shoulders, they do a lot better. And I think that's what happened with you.
Yeah, definitely. And I would like, there's a little bit more to that too, where I actually stepped away from competition entirely for 2 years. I guess I was like kind of getting flowed gear from like K2 and like a little bit from Smith, but I basically just like abandoned that entirely for 2 years. And I was like skiing on the weekends, but like just for fun, just with my buddies, getting a couple of clips on Instagram or whatever, but with no intention behind it, I guess. And yeah, no competitions whatsoever for those 2 seasons. And then after I graduated college, then I was like, I'm going to do like a farewell tour of sorts. I was like, I want to, take a gap year, but then, like my plan was like apply to medical school and just kind of go that route. And I just wanted to like finish my like, quote unquote, like competitive skiing career on a high note. Like I felt like when I stopped competing, I left with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And I wanted to figure out how to, just like go tap back into that community. Like it totally built who I am as a person. And I want to just like basically go on a road trip for a winter and go to these places and see these people and just try to do a couple competition runs that like felt true to myself,
And it works for you. You end up qualifying for the Freeride World Tour. And I would think it's like, you've got to make another decision now. In high school, you had to make a decision between soccer and skiing. But now it's like, do I give myself this opportunity to see if skiing is going to pan out because I almost owe it to myself? Or do I jump right back into school and do the med school thing? Because your family's a bunch of academics. Your brother's getting his master's degree right now, and you guys are all really smart people. So I'm sure it was a tough call for you. But was it like, hey, I owe it to myself to do this?
Yeah, I was honestly debating it. Like at the moment that I qualified, like I went into that season without any goals whatsoever. Like the previous years that I was competing, I was like, my goal is to qualify for the Freeride World Tour. And I know that I'm capable of doing that. And my whole season was built around it. And this go around, I was like really just like one competition at a time. Like, what can I do at this stop that, represents who I am as a skier and like is for me and not for the crowd. And like I was like really intentionally like trying to block out the noise and do it for myself. And when I ended up qualifying for the World Tour, I was like, well, I guess I need to figure out if I'm going to do this now, because it wasn't my intention to end up there. And to a certain extent, obviously it was. Like, you don't enter all of these competitions and do all of that without that being in the back of your mind. But I seriously considered like rejecting the offer and not doing it. But then I was like, I don't know, like it would be ultimately about ego to not accept that invitation. And it's like, I owe it to myself to at least just like see what's up with this and like give it a go. Like this was like my childhood dream and it's at my fingertips now. I should at least check it out. Whatever, turn a gap year into a 2 gap year.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to get to be 60 years old and you didn't take that opportunity to see what skiing would do, you would question it. You would be like, why didn't I do that? Because I could have. So I think you easily made the right call. You can always be a doctor. You've already got the pre-med stuff done. So you can only be a pro skier for a limited time. I mean, some people defy the limited time, like Mark Abma, and maybe you could be an Abma, but you might as well take advantage of it while it's there and served up to you. And you make the Freeride World Tour. I think you went on like 3 or 4 stops. I think a bunch of them were international stops. And with those tours, it's like you're going to spend a shit ton of money to fly halfway across the world to ski in crappy conditions. And that doesn't always happen. But for your Freeride World Tour experience and events, was that your experience?
Yeah, it was so chaotic. I knew it was going to be crazy, and it was just so much crazier than I thought it would be. The first competition was in Spain, and then Andorra after that, and Kicking Horse after that. And it really is like a traveling circus. And kudos to all the event organizers for making it happen. Having organized simpler, smaller scale things myself, it is mind-blowing that they're able to pull that off event after event, year after year. But yeah, the conditions were suboptimal, I would say. The first competition in Spain was particularly eye-opening to me. I remember seeing photos of the venue the week before we went, and it was literally all rock. I didn't see a way to catch air. I didn't see a skiable line in the photos, and it honestly just looked dangerous to me. There's just no coverage, basically no snow, which is a recurring theme there, unfortunately, because the mountains are amazing. And we got there and it snowed like, I want to say like 3 or 4 inches on top of this like combination of boilerplate ice and rocks. And I was just like so skeptical of the whole thing. And the first forerunner went and the whole face ripped. And basically like the middle of the venue with, in my mind, the majority of the lines was back to the bed surface and rocks that we saw the week prior. And then as an athlete, you're kind of faced with the decision of like, okay, am I going to go like ski bed surface and like ski what I know will happen? Or do I like go venture elsewhere on the venue and not only risk like hitting rocks, but like also risk avalanches, right? Like there's the same aspect and the same elevation on this whole thing. And it's like it ripped in one place, like it will rip in the other spots also. And it was just like, how am I going to put down like a competitive competition run when this doesn't even feel like a safe thing to ski? And it was just like, I don't know. There were like riders meetings and we were like, nobody really wanted to do it, but like enough people kind of were down. And then eventually the event organizers were like, okay, sweet. Like, get up there. We're starting the event in 15 minutes. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I feel like a lot of the lessons that I had learned the year prior about like skiing for myself, prioritizing safety, making sure that I'm skiing in a way that like works for me and resonates with me, was just like immediately out of the window. It was like, I genuinely don't even want to ski this. And now I have to like put down like an FWT caliber competition run on it. And it was just like, it felt so wrong to me. And, I think my run reflected that. It was like kind of weird. I did like a straight air screaming seaman, which like in my mind was like more of a meme than anything. Like, it's not like a trick, I did
Now to like the 90s.
Yeah, totally. I was honestly just kind of like out of frustration. Like I'm on my final feature and I didn't like this run kind of thing. So that was Spain, and I won't ramble for too much, but Kicking Horse was a very similar experience. There was actually like an avalanche fatality on the same aspect and elevation the day before the event. There were like 4 avalanches during the event itself. And it was just like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, this doesn't feel right.
It's counterintuitive to everything that you do as a backcountry skier. When you go to Abbey 1 classes and all the different things that you get, it's like, hey, you've got to read the terrain. You've got to understand the red flags. Then you go to this contest and everybody's like, fuck the red flags. We got to go at 1.
Yeah. And I don't know, again, like so much respect to the organizers for
Yeah, I get it.
and it is such a challenge. And then also like kudos to the competitors for being able to put down competitive runs in that setting. It just didn't feel right to me. And, my results reflected that. I ended up like getting cut. I missed the cut by one spot, which in my mind ended up being for the best. I was able to pivot pretty much immediately.
I mean, yeah. So how does it go from you skiing Freeride World Tour to you filming parts with head and with matchstick? I mean, because those things are, huge. And that year just blew up your whole career. You get that award at IF3. Everybody's talking about you. And really, it was that head. I don't know which movie won you the award, but that head movie was just beautiful. I mean, Jeff Thomas is incredible. How did those two projects simultaneously come to be?
Yeah, I so much to say about this. I'll try to keep it streamlined, I guess. The first shoot that I went on that winter was that one that I mentioned earlier up at the Great Bear with Matchstick Productions. And this was before I like technically had a deal with them. I've been talking to Dustin Lindgren for a long time about, working on a project together. He was with Matchstick for a long time earlier. And then that was his first year back at Matchstick, like in a director role. And he and I just really wanted to work together. So he was able to get me on this season heli trip that ended up actually like not making the movie. But, I skied well on that trip and they wanted to do more with me. And then I was sponsored by Head, which had a deal with Matchstick. And again, there are just like so many things that need to line up in order for these opportunities to arise. But my first trip was with Matchstick. And then immediately after I got cut at Kicking Horse, like before the event, Dustin and I were planning this trip in Tahoe because we saw the storm rolling in. And that was like what we wanted to do. So like before I even knew what the outcome of the Freeride World Tour was going to be, I already like knew what I was doing the day after the event. So I like flew back home and then just had that like 2 weeks of paradise skiing powder with Dennis Renaulter and Mark Abma and hanging out at home. And it was just everything that I could have asked for from a film trip. And then after that, like I was hearing rumors about this Head movie that was being filmed. It was the first year that they did the team movie, and Heimer and Jeffy were just great and were able to work me onto what ended up being just like the perfect fit of a film trip for me up at Golden Alpine Holidays. And I really like more than anything, I think like it was a great crew, like super supportive and like really well-rounded, like between like Jess Hodder and Aaron Blanc, and Anna Segal was on that trip as well, just filming for her own thing. But it was like really supportive, really well-rounded styles of skiing. And then the terrain was just like everything I could have asked for. I'd like never skied pillows before. There were like some awesome like entry-level pillow lines, some cool like alpine terrain. And then Jeffy is such like a workhorse when it comes to jumps. And we were able to build like 2 like really sick jumps out there also. So I felt like Jeffy just kind of served it up to me on a silver platter. Like all the things that I wanted to showcase in my skiing were available to me just so readily. And we were able to just crush that week and get so many shots every day. And like, yeah, looking like I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, like just so many things lined up to make that trip as great as it was.
Well, I mean, I think it all starts with your work ethic, because I talked to Jeffy and he was like, man, that guy works harder than anybody. And Jeffy loves that because he works harder than anybody. So when you get a bunch of hardworking people together, it's like you can bang out content, and that makes for a ton of clips and some great stuff. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to go, because we're going to be cutting it close with time right here because you got to go in a few minutes. So let's see what I'm going to ask you about. We haven't really talked about partying at all. I will bring it up a little bit. You are no stranger to après and karaoke. And what is your favorite DMX song to karaoke to?
I'm less of a rap karaoke guy. My favorite's like Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten. I'm going for more of that like sing-songy feminine stuff at karaoke.
I have that clip on my phone of you singing that song with, I forget who else it is, but then I also heard you were a pretty gnarly DMX guy as well.
I mean, like, X don't give it to you.
Yeah, there we go. All right, you got to do that. It's your name.
Yeah, of course.
And then when you think about what's going on in your life right now, you've got pro skiing is first and foremost. You're going to keep doing that. But is the plan, hey, I'm just going to ski until I can't anymore, and then I'm going to go to medical school and be a doctor?
I'm really trying to sort it out right now, honestly. The ski industry is so wild where you have these like 2-year contract periods. And like right now I'm in the process of like renegotiating all those contracts and like really getting a sense of like how much I can live off of this, like been able to make it work the past 2 years. And, as you get older, the needs start shifting a little bit and whatnot. So I'm so like more fired up about skiing now than I've ever been. Like there's so much that I want to do here. And like last year was such a cool like sampling of the different opportunities that are available to me. So like I'm all in right now and like want to do as much as I can. Bigger picture is just like I don't know. Like there's so many different ways that things could go. I'm thinking about maybe not guiding next summer and, being able to like be at home and maybe take some classes again. I think that's a part of my life that I haven't nurtured much in recent years. It would be nice to be in like a learning set. I mean, I'm always learning, always doing that, but doing it in a more formal setting would be nice. And yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to sort out the big picture. What I do know is that skiing is awesome. And honestly, in my mind, like it feels like we're entering another golden era right now. Like all of the movies that I've seen come out this fall have been so varied and beautiful. And it's a really cool time to be able to like, be a skier, So I want to do as much as I can with this while I have access to these resources, because now more than ever, I'm like feeling super grateful to have the ability to go film with multiple different production companies, have support for my own project, and to be able to just like chase this little dream. So that's what I'm fired up about right now.
Rad. Well, before we finish this podcast out, I need to get to our final segment of the show. It's something that I call Inappropriate Questions. And this is where I get someone that to ask 3 questions, and they can be anything. This week, I was able to get the perfect person, a skier, a musician, a master's student, and your brother. I was able to get Jordan to ask 3 questions. Are you ready for question number 1 from Jordan?
I guess so. Go for it.
I would love to hear about naked skiing and the significance of that being from Tahoe and your experiences skiing naked.
Skiing naked is a big thing in Tahoe. Shout out Shane McConkey. I think the coolest moment that I had doing that was out in the Rubies with Matchstick 2 years ago with Ben Bellis and Jess Hodder and Mark Abma, and the 4 of us team skied Terminal Cancer naked. It was pretty epic, but plenty other moments of skiing naked prior to that too.
It's a gnarly line to ski naked or ski at all, so that's pretty crazy.
It was cold.
Let's go to question number 2.
Do you have any funny stories from or like an especially memorable experience with a party around skiing?
Yeah, we had a ridiculously organized high school friend group. My friend Skylar Mullings was like just the master organizer. So he booked out Bradley Hut, which is one of the many huts around like North Lake Tahoe. I think we had it 2 years in a row, and then we got it a third time a few years after, like on New Year's Eve. So we were just this like squad of high schoolers. We had like sleds and like 60-pound backpacks with like Jello shots, and we just like slog all this stuff out to the Bradley Hut and tear it up for a night. But the fact that like in retrospect, like Skylar had to be so dialed to get that place on that date. Like that was pretty next level of him.
The permitting and the lead time that you have to do that ahead of time to do that is not really something a high schooler does. So kudos to that kid.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with your final inappropriate question.
Could you tell us about the joyride that me and you took in our parents' car when you were 15?
I don't know if I call it a joyride. I don't think it lasted long enough for that. But I was like 15, so I had my learner's permit. And I don't really remember the context, but I really wanted to eat pancakes that morning. We didn't have the ingredients for it. I was like, I'm going to like go drive across the street, go to the store and like get some flour or whatever it was we needed. So Jordan hopped in the passenger seat, and I just immediately put the car into drive instead of reverse, and then like eased onto the gas, expecting to go back. And I was learning to drive like stick and automatic simultaneously. So when you're driving stick and you're on a tilted driveway, like sometimes there will be some rocking forward.
Yep.
And I like felt it go forward. And my response to that was just like hit the gas harder. So like from about 5 feet away, just like rushed our garage door. Ended up being a bit of a positive, maybe. It ended up exposing this like big rat's nest in the wall that we were able to then get rid of. But yeah, not my finest driving moment.
All right, well, you uncovered the rat nest, and that was a huge thing for your parents. They had to pay for a car, but they didn't have to pay for an exterminator. That is nice. That is Inappropriate Questions, and that's our podcast. And I know you've got to be in the car like 5 minutes ago, so I will say 5 years ago at this time, I was recording podcasts, and you were never going to be on one because you were on track to become a doctor. But it's funny how life can change fast. And in your case, it changed in an awesome way. And when you're done with this life, the pro ski life, the world will be your oyster again, and you can do whatever you want. But I thank you for sharing your story, and I thank you for your time, and now have an amazing time at your premiere.
Mike, thank you. Thanks for the thoughtful questions and for the time, man. This was a great one.
So that was time with Xander Guldman, and we were so close to timing this one perfect, where Xander would be in Seattle and I could see his movie, and then I could put out the podcast and tell you how amazing his movie was. Well, that didn't happen, but we were close. And regardless, I was stoked to get to know Xander a little better with this podcast before I met him in person. I mean, his skiing is so good and his personality and story are right there too. It's going to be interesting to see how long Xander's able to have a career as a film skier before he heads back to medical school. Because Xander is one of those guys where skiing will just be part of the story, kind of like Evan Rapps, but totally different. That's the podcast. At this point, I'd normally ask you to do a bunch of shit for me. But all I'm going to ask this week is that if you need stickers, tents, banners, or whatever, please email me at mike.powell@diecutstickers.com because I need to start selling more stickers, banners, and tents or else I'm not going to have a job. So please do that for me. We make the best stuff out there and I get the best pricing and I will extend that to you. Finally, please, please, please support my incredible sponsors. They are Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, Therm-ic Heated Socks, Descent Labs, and Stanley. Have a great week, everyone.